Hi guys, back in the kitchen today. So I decided I'm going to do salve today instead of the lip balm because I don't have the little lip balm containers. I need to pick up those before we do that. And I'm running low on my beeswax, so I've got to pick up some more beeswax as well. But I remembered I had forgotten that a really good friend of mine had given me plantain infused oil. And I'm not talking about the fruit, it's an herb that I didn't grow. She grew it. And then she also gave me 2 plants that she grew, so they're in my backyard now. So I'm very excited. Next year I'll be making my own. But in the meantime, I get to use her beautiful infused oil. Now this one I didn't press down to strain because I want to use the oil right away. So later I'll press it down and then I'll strain it again a second time to get all the little bits out of it. But right now I just poured it in through here so I don't have bits in the oil. There were a couple of tricks I kind of wanted to mention. First, I get the water started heating right away because it takes a little time to cook. And of course we're doing the same thing as before. We're doing a double boiler with the little tray in there, a little bit of water over that. We'll be using a glass measuring cup to melt everything in. I love using my heavy duty chopsticks for stirring in this process. That's really handy. The next trick is I get the beeswax and put it in first because using all these different oils, your little spoon gets oily and then the beeswax sticks to it. So I do the beeswax first. The other thing is in all of these jars that I'm using, these are little canning jars and canning tops. And when you're canning, you have to use new ones of this. You can use these again, but these you have to use new ones for the sterility. But for storing oils and lotions, you can reuse these as long as they've been washed, and they have. So that's what I use for storing. As far as the recipe goes, I make all sorts of different kinds, but basically I split the oils up differently. Just depends on what I'm making. But basically you're going to be using 6 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon oil to 1 3/4 tablespoon beeswax and 1 tablespoon shea butter, a couple of drops of vitamin E, and then whatever essential oil you want to use. So then I break up those tablespoons of oil in different ways. So for instance, today I'm going to be using the lovely lemon balm oil and the lavender oil and then the plantain oil that my friend gave me. I use rosehip oil in it, and then, like I said, a couple drops of vitamin E and the shea butter and the beeswax. So let's get started. So today, what I'm going to be doing, the beeswax is always the same, 1 3/4 or just under 2 tablespoons of beeswax. Like that. There we go. And then the shea butter, I'm going to do the shea butter last. We'll do the oils next. So today I'm going to be doing 2 tablespoons of the lemon balm oil. And then 1 tablespoon of the lavender oil. So we're up to 3 tablespoons of oil so far. Actually, yeah, I'm going to do 1 more tablespoon of the lavender oil, sorry. So now we'll be up to 4 tablespoons of oil. And then we're going to do half a tablespoon of rose hip oil. So we're up to 4.5. And then we're going to do 4.5, let's see, 4.5. So we're going to do 1 tablespoon of plantain oil. So that's 5.5. And then we're going to do another half. So that's 6 tablespoons. And then we need 1 teaspoon of the plantain oil. So that's a total of, I hope I measured it right. We'll find out. I'm terrible at math. But that would be 5, 6, and 1 teaspoon. Okay, yep, that, I hope I measured it right. Okay, so now we're gonna add the couple of drops vitamin E, just 2, there we go. And then our 1 tablespoon of shea butter. Let me grab a towel to clean out the spoon. I'm going to go with 1 tablespoon of shea butter. There we go. Got it. Now we're going to put it over here in the hot water and let that begin to melt. I love messing with all the oils because I get to put it all over me while I'm working. I love that. Okay, so now the part is just waiting. You don't have to heat it to a certain temperature like the lotion you do. This one, you just want it to melt down. And it takes a little while for that to happen. And then, let's put this back over here. And I can grab something to push that. While we're talking, I might as well work on the straining of the plantain oil. But it's just so thrilling to take the stuff that we grew this summer and turn it into really nice products for the family in the winter. It's lovely. Yeah, that one's pretty much strained. That wasn't hard to do at all, so we'll just set that over there. And now we'll have to re-strain it again. I'll use a cheesecloth on that to strain the rest of that. But there we go. We're getting there. So I'm just really excited. I get to use my lemon balm oil that I infused in it in olive oil. I used olive oil for these. I think next year I'm going to try a coconut oil version, and also I'm going to go with a light olive oil instead of a heavier one. It still is fantastic and smells lavendery, and the lemon balm doesn't smell like real strong, but it smells really nice. And of course, we love that for our skin. It's wonderful. You know, it's amazing to me how just growing a little bit of stuff this summer has affected making life easier in taking care of our skin. I stored some foods, not a whole lot because I didn't grow a whole lot of foods. I think it's interesting. So like how my grandparents, they lived in town, in a small town in Wisconsin, and they had a very large piece of property. Everybody in town had quite a large property. Nowadays, you know, you put the houses almost to where you can touch each other if you stuck your hand out the window. But then it was very common. Everyone had a kitchen garden or just a very large garden. So like my grandparents, they had a very large garden, and they fed their family with that garden, and they stored food through the winter. They canned and they jellied and they jammed and all those wonderful things that are good for us growing our own food. In our piece of property, it's like I said, I'm a city farm girl now. It's small, so I'm working out how to manage it so that it produces some food. My goal is not to do the big thing because I can't. I have to look at it realistically and know that I don't have enough space to grow a large garden that will feed our family throughout the year. But it doesn't matter. I think it's fantastic to be able to supplement our family's food with what we grow, and also have these products, which, you know, saves a great deal of money making it yourself, and it doesn't take that long to do. For example, the salves I do a couple of times a year, and that's it. I don't have to do it a whole lot because it lasts a long time. And the foods, you know, next year, that's one of my goals, is to try to grow more, at least through the summer, so that we have fresh veggies through the summer. My front yard, and you know, I talk about it too much, but this time of year, I'm like really anxious to get started. Molly is too. She's like, we've just, you know, we've hung out in the house too long. It's time to go outside and work. But the front yard will probably be my biggest project this year. I've said before, in New Mexico, we work around the sun, which is a wonderful thing. I love having the sun here, but it is extremely powerful. So when you plan a garden, you kind of have to figure, where is it going to get enough shade, instead of worrying about if it's going to get enough sun. We don't have a problem with that. So I feel like growing things in New Mexico, the trick is structures that will help have filtered sun to your plants. So in the front, I'll be adding some more structure, and then also there's a step down part of our front property that has fake turf on it, and I'm trying to cover that up. I don't want to have to pull that out because it would be a really huge undertaking. So my goal is to cover it. So and also to cut through it. So I'm going to take two areas where I'm going to cut through it and make a really big circle, and work with the dirt that's under it. I think I'll be needing to amend it and throw some compost in there and get the dirt healthy, because I think there's a layer of sand underneath there. I did do an experiment. I cut a small hole through and put in some desert ornamental grass in that spot, and I'm going to find out this spring if it grew well, if it comes back, if it's okay. And if it's not, then I know it needs more work under there than just putting a plant in. And then in those big holes, I'm gonna put a couple of evergreen trees that grow well here in the Southwest, and then around those places I'm going to be putting in raised beds or round planters like wine barrels and things like that I'll be growing different foods in, like carrots and squash and maybe cucumbers, things like that. And right now I've built this fake river out of rocks that go through it, and I'll be adding more rocks and things like that. But my goal is to just cover that up and have some things that are growing. And then in the backyard, I'm still working on the raised beds. I'm still filling in those raised beds that I built last year. Right now, I'm not using my composter because it would freeze. But what I am doing is taking the kitchen scraps that are all vegetable, nothing cooked and nothing meat, and throwing it in the bottom of those raised beds, and then putting dirt over top of that, which is not the ideal way to compost, but it will work in the long run. It will be good for the dirt, and it's good filler. So that's coming along. And then the strawberry patch raised bed is only partially built. I hope I'll finish that before spring, because I'd like to get the strawberries in there this year. And I'm not going to harvest sunflowers this year. I'm gonna grow them for the birds because they love them and they're beautiful, and I'm gonna grow them around the aspen trees so that they will throw some shade on the aspen trees, because they don't like the heat. that much, and I just love the aspen trees so much. I'm trying to nurture and baby them so that they have the environment they want. So I'm going to be putting in sunflowers around them this year, and also lemon verbena, because both of those plants grow really quite tall, and that will protect the lower part of the aspen trees. At least they won't get so burned up in the sun this year. The other thing I started was repainting that back fence to red, which I love, but there's one of the reasons is the blue would reflect the sun and the red will absorb the sun. So I think that will help also protect some of the plants by having the fence absorb the heat instead of reflecting it back. And then the vegetable garden spot, I have it built up high enough Molly can't get in. I still need to work on the gates so I can go through there. But that's where I'm going to be putting in quite a few tomatoes, because we love tomatoes, and because the plant part, the greenery of the tomato is poisonous, I didn't want her to be able to go in there and just, you know, lick the stuff, because she does like to do that. She doesn't chew anything up, but she sure likes to nibble on things. All right, so here we go. It's all melted. Turn the heat off. It's so simple. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful, beautiful. So I'm going to set it here. Now, the nice thing about granite countertop is when you put something really hot on it, it disperses the heat out, and it actually cools the product pretty quickly when you set it on there. But if you don't have a granite countertop, I would suggest grabbing your cutting board and setting it on the countertop and then putting your hot thing on top of that. Okay, so now the next part is, oh, there they are. Grab some essential oil. So it smells so good. It smells like lavender and lemon balm. It's lovely. I don't think the plantain has much of an odor. Nope, not really. But I'm going to add a little bit of lavender to it just because I like it. Just a couple of drops of lavender. And then give it a quick stir. You want to make sure you stir it up a little bit because you don't want the essential oil to just sit on top. So you want it to kind of combine just a little bit. And then just very simple, all you do is transfer that to your glass container. And then you're going to let it just set overnight. Here we go. Isn't that pretty? And it's already starting to solidify. You can see that starting to get a little foggy. And I don't know if you can see it right. Even on here you can see it's starting to get a little waxy right there. But it takes till overnight. Oh, it smells so good. And I love using this all over. It's really good for you. Just use it as you want to. So then I just set that there for overnight, and then that's done. So I hope you enjoyed that. It was pretty simple. Listen to me yammering on about the garden. But I'm really thrilled to have done all of this, grown it and done it myself. So the cost of all of this it's really kind of hard for me to quantify, because I had to think about, you know, how much does a couple of cups of olive oil cost. The plant itself, you know, it costs a couple dollars. And I tell you, I could have gotten 100 bottles of this off of the lemon balm this year, and the lemon verbena, and you know, I just didn't get to doing a whole lot. I just did some of it. So next year I'll do a lot more. But of course I don't, you know, don't want to overdo it, stuff you can't use so much of it, because it only takes a couple tablespoons of this, so it's not gonna, it'll take a long time to use up. But, and then the shea butter and the vitamin E are just a couple of drops, and same with the essential oil. I kind of figure it to be, including the container costs about $1 each, these glass ones. So the container and then the stuff inside it, it's about $1.80-ish. So it's under $2 to make this much of a salve, you know, and you can't buy that for even close to it. So it saves us a lot of money, and we get the benefits of all that. So anyway, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you try to use it, make it yourself. Let me know how it goes. Thanks.